The Great Hall of the Galactic Council was the largest structure ever built by intelligent life. It floated in the empty space between three star systems, a monument to cooperation and peace. Thousands of species had worked together to create it. The walls were made of crystal that showed the stars outside. The ceiling stretched so high that clouds sometimes formed inside the chamber. Ambassador stood at the human delegation's platform and looked around the room. She was a small woman with gray hair and calm eyes. She had served Earth for 40 years. She had seen wars begin and end. She had watched empires rise and fall. Nothing surprised her anymore. Today, representatives from over 200 species filled the chamber. Some were tall and thin with blue skin. Others were short and covered in thick fur. A few existed only as floating lights or clouds of gas. The galaxy held more forms of life than any human could count. Assistant, a young man named, stood beside her. He was nervous. She could see it in the way he kept checking his tablet. "Ambassador," he whispered, "the delegation has arrived." Turned her head slowly. They were walking to their platform on the opposite side of the chamber. They were large creatures, almost 3 meters tall. Their skin was dark red and their eyes glowed yellow. They had 4 arms and walked on 2 thick legs. Everything about them was designed to frighten other species. The leader of them was High Commander. He wore armor made of black metal. His voice was deep and rough when he spoke. "The Empire greets the Council," announced. "We come with demands." The chamber fell quiet. Demands were not normal at the Council. Most species came to discuss and negotiate. They had always been different. Counselor, an ancient being who had led the Council for 300 years, raised one of his many limbs. "High Commander, the Council welcomes all voices. Please share your thoughts." Smiled. It was not a kind smile. "The Empire has grown. We need more space. We need more resources. 3 human colony worlds sit at the edge of our territory. We demand that humanity surrender these worlds to us." Whispers filled the chamber. Every eye turned to the human platform. Did not move, she did not speak, she simply watched. Continued. "The humans are weak. Everyone knows this. They have no great fleet. They have no powerful weapons. They hide behind their borders and pretend to be peaceful." He laughed and his soldiers laughed with him. "We do not ask for these worlds. We demand them. If the humans refuse, we will take them by force." His hands were shaking. "Ambassador, we need to respond. We need to say something." Held up her hand. "Wait." More began to speak. They talked about human weakness. They talked about how humans were soft and afraid. They said humanity had no place among the great powers of the galaxy. Other delegations watched in silence. Some looked worried. Others looked amused. One delegate from a species called the spoke up. "Perhaps the humans should consider the offer. They are very powerful. It might be wise to avoid conflict." Nodded. "Listen to they are smart. They know when to bow." Finally moved. She took one step forward and somehow that small movement made the entire chamber go quiet. There was something in the way she stood, something in her eyes. "Ambassador," Counselor said gently, "humanity has the right to respond." She looked at him for a long time. Then she looked at the delegate. Then she looked at Counselor. She said nothing. Ambassador asked again. "Turn 2, pack everything. We are leaving." His eyes went wide. "Leaving? Ambassador, we cannot just." "Now." The young man began gathering their documents. The chamber watched in confusion. This had never happened before. No species had ever simply walked away from the Council. Laughed again. "Look at them. They run away like frightened animals. This is proof of human weakness. They cannot even stand and argue." Walked toward the exit. Her steps were slow and steady. She did not look back. "Ambassador," Counselor called out, "please let us discuss this. War is not necessary. We can find a solution." Stopped at the door. She turned her head slightly. "There is nothing to discuss." She left, hurried after her. The chamber erupted in noise. Delegates shouted at each other. The celebrated thinking they had won, but Counselor did not celebrate. He was very old. He had seen many things, and he remembered something that the younger species had forgotten. He remembered the last time humans had gone silent. Raised his limbs and called for order. The noise slowly died down. "High Commander," said quietly, "I suggest you reconsider your demands." Tilted his head. "Why, the humans have shown their true nature. They are cowards." His ancient eyes looked tired. "You are young, High Commander. Your empire is only 800 years old. You do not know the old stories. Stories are for children." "Perhaps, but there is one story you should hear," lowered his voice. 50,000 years ago there was a species called They were powerful. They had the greatest fleet in the galaxy. They made demands of humanity just as you have done today." Crossed his upper arms. "And what happened to these?" Was silent for a moment. "No one knows." "What do you mean?" "I mean they are gone, completely gone. Their worlds are empty. Their ships are dust. Even their records have vanished. It is as if they never existed." Looked directly at. "The only thing we know is that before they disappeared, humanity stopped talking to them, just like today." Snorted. "You try to frighten me with ghost stories." "I try to save your people," replied. But was not listening. He was already planning his invasion. He would take the human worlds and prove they were the strongest species in the galaxy. He did not notice that several older delegations had quietly left the chamber. He did not notice the fear in their eyes. And far away on a small ship heading back to Earth, Ambassador sat in silence, watched her carefully. "Ambassador," he finally asked, "what will happen now?" Looked out the window at the distant stars. "Now we go home." "And then?" She did not answer for a long time. When she finally spoke, her voice was soft. "Then we remind the galaxy why they should have listened." Felt a chill run down his spine. He had worked with for 5 years, but in that moment he realized he did not know her at all. Outside the window, the stars continued to shine, unaware of what was coming. 3 days passed after Ambassador left the council. During those 3 days, they celebrated their victory. High Commander gave speeches about the coming conquest. His soldiers prepared their weapons. His ships gathered at the border of human space. But on the 4th day, something strange happened. The human communication networks went dark. Every signal from human space stopped. The trading posts closed. The diplomatic channels shut down. The entertainment broadcasts disappeared. It was as if someone had turned off a light and now there was only darkness. Ambassador, the highest-ranking human diplomat in the galaxy, sent out one final message before going silent. The message was simple and short. All human citizens are ordered to return home. All human ships must leave foreign space. All human embassies will close within 24 hours. This is not a request. Then nothing. The High Commander read the message and smiled. They are running. They know they cannot fight us, so they hide in their little corner of space. His advisor, a younger name, did not smile. "Sir, this seems strange. Why would they recall everyone, even civilians?" "Because they are afraid. Or because they are preparing for something." Waved his hand. "Preparing for what? Their fleet is small. Their weapons are weak. We have studied them for years. They have nothing that can threaten us." Wanted to argue, but he knew better. When made a decision, he did not change his mind. Across the galaxy, other species watched the human silence with different reactions. The younger species, those who had existed for less than 10,000 years, saw nothing unusual. Humans were strange creatures. They did strange things. This was just another example. But the older species reacted differently. The who had lived for 200,000 years immediately closed their borders. Their leader gave no explanation. He simply ordered his people to stay home and wait. The crystalline collective, A group of beings made of living stone stopped all communication with outside species. They retreated to their deep caves and sealed the entrances. The Whisper Folk, creatures of pure energy who rarely spoke to anyone, sent a single message to the. The message contained only 3 words: "You should stop." Ignored all of these warnings. He thought the older species were weak and paranoid. They had lived too long and become afraid of everything. On the Galactic Council station, Counselor called an emergency meeting. Only a few delegates attended. Most had already left. "We must act," said to the nearly empty chamber. "We must convince the to withdraw their demands." A delegate from the raised her hand. "Why? The humans left. They clearly do not want to fight. Perhaps it is better to let them take what they want." "You do not understand," replied. "The humans did not leave because they are weak. They left because they are planning something." "Planning what?" Shook his head slowly. "I do not know. No one ever knows. That is what makes them dangerous." The delegate laughed softly. "Counselor, with respect, you are very old. Perhaps you have become too cautious. The humans are a young species. They have only been traveling among the stars for 2,000 years. How dangerous can they really be?" Looked at her with his ancient eyes. "Let me tell you a story." The delegate sighed but nodded. Old creatures always wanted to tell stories. "When humans first came to space," began, "they were small and weak. Their ships were slow. Their technology was simple. Many species thought they would be easy to control or destroy." "I know this history," the delegate interrupted. "The humans survived and grew. It is not unusual." "Let me finish." His voice was firm. "In those early years, a species called the decided to enslave humanity. They attacked Earth with a fleet of 10,000 ships. The humans had only a few hundred. What happened? They won the first battle. They destroyed the human fleet and began to land on Earth. Paused. Then the humans did something unexpected." The delegate leaned forward. "What?" "They stopped fighting. They surrendered. No, they just stopped. They went silent. For 3 months no human spoke to any, no attacks, no negotiations, no messages, nothing." The delegate frowned. "That makes no sense. What were they doing?" "Waiting, learning, planning." His voice dropped lower. "On the 91st day, every ship in orbit around Earth exploded at the exact same moment. Every single one. 10,000 ships destroyed in 1 second. The chamber was quiet. "How?" the delegate whispered. "No one knows. The humans never explained. They simply went back to their normal activities as if nothing had happened." Looked around the nearly empty room. They tried to send another fleet. It never arrived. They tried to call for help from their allies. No response. Within 1 year the species was gone, not just defeated. Gone. There is now an empty rock. Their colonies are dust. Even records of their existence have been mostly erased." The delegate sat back in her chair. Her face had gone pale. "Surely this is an exaggeration. Old stories become bigger over time." "I was there," said simply. "I saw it happen. I watched the vanish. And I watched the humans return to the galactic community as if nothing had changed. They smiled. They traded. They made friends, but I never forgot what they could do." The delegate swallowed hard. "Why does no one talk about this?" "Because the humans asked us not to, very politely, very kindly, and somehow most species decided to forget." Many eyes blinked slowly. "I think we wanted to forget. The truth was too frightening." Back on the was preparing his invasion fleet. 200,000 ships gathered in formation. It was the largest military force that had ever assembled. His advisor stood beside him on the command bridge. "Sir, our scouts report that human space is completely dark. No patrols, no defenses. It is as if they have abandoned everything." Grinned. "Then this will be easy. We will take their worlds without resistance." "Sir, does this not worry you? Why would they leave their borders undefended?" "Because they know they cannot win. They are saving their people. It is the smart choice." laughed, the weak choice. Looked out at the gathered fleet. So many ships, so much power, they had never lost a war. But somewhere deep inside he felt afraid. He could not explain why. It was just a feeling, a whisper in his mind that something was very wrong. He looked at the distant stars, toward human space, and wondered what was waiting for them in the silence. Far away on Earth, Ambassador sat in a simple room with white walls. Across from her sat a woman in a dark uniform. The woman's face showed no emotion. "The fleet will move soon," the woman said. Nodded, "I know. The Council has done nothing to stop them." "I expected that." The woman studied his face. "You do not seem worried." Smiled slightly. "I am not." "May I ask why?" Stood and walked to the window. Outside, the sun was setting over a green forest. Birds flew across the orange sky. It was peaceful, beautiful. "Because I know what comes next," said softly, "and I almost feel sorry for them." The woman in the dark uniform nodded and left the room without another word. Outside, the stars began to appear in the darkening sky. They looked the same as always, quiet, distant, uncaring. But soon they would learn to care. Soon everyone would remember why the silence of humanity was the most terrifying sound in the galaxy. Counselor could not sleep. This was unusual because his species needed very little rest, but when they did sleep, they slept deeply. Tonight, however, memories kept him awake. He floated in his private chamber, surrounded by the soft glow of ancient data crystals. Each crystal contained records from long ago. Most species had forgotten these records existed, wished he could forget too. He reached out with one of his many limbs and touched a crystal that was older than most civilizations. It began to glow, and images appeared in the air around him. The Empire watched the images and remembered. They had been magnificent. Their ships were works of art, covered in gold and silver. Their cities floated among the clouds of gas giants. Their technology was so advanced that other species thought it was magic. For 50,000 years, they ruled a quarter of the galaxy. They were proud. They were powerful. They believed nothing could ever challenge them. Then they met humanity. Watched the old recordings. He saw the first contact between humans, and the humans had arrived in a small ship, barely larger than a transport vessel. They had laughed at them. These tiny creatures with their primitive technology dared to speak to the great empire. The humans were polite. They asked for trade agreements. They asked for peaceful relations. They asked for respect. They refused all of it. "You are beneath us," the emperor had said. "You will serve us or you will be destroyed." Remembered what happened next. The humans sent a diplomat, a young woman with dark hair and patient eyes. Her name was. She came alone to the throne world and asked to speak with the emperor. "Your Majesty," she had said, "my people want peace. We do not wish to fight, but I must warn you, do not threaten us. Do not attack our worlds. If you leave us alone, we will leave you alone." The emperor had laughed so hard that his guards had to hold him up. "You warn us. A species that has existed for only a moment warns the eternal empire." Did not react to his laughter. "I understand that you think we are weak. Many species have made that mistake. I am asking you, as clearly as I can, to not make the same mistake." "Is that a threat?" "No, Your Majesty, it is a promise. Humanity does not make threats, we make promises." The emperor ordered his guards to arrest her, did not resist. She was taken to a prison cell and left there for 3 days. When the guards came to check on her, the cell was empty. The door had not been opened. The walls had not been broken. She was simply gone. 2 weeks later, they attacked a human colony world. They burned the cities. They killed millions of people. They broadcast the destruction across the galaxy as a warning to other species. Humanity said nothing. They attacked again and again. They destroyed 5 human colonies in total. Each time the humans retreated without fighting. Each time, they celebrated their easy victory. Then the silence came. All human communication stopped. Every ship returned to human space. Every diplomat went home. The galaxy watched and waited. The Emperor was pleased. "They have given up," he announced. "The humans know they cannot defeat us. Soon they will beg for mercy." But 1 month passed and no humans appeared. 2 months, 3 months, 6 months. Nothing. The Emperor grew impatient. He ordered his fleet to invade human space and finish the war. 10 million ships launched toward human territory. They were never seen again. Watched the old recordings with heavy hearts. The fleet had entered human space and simply vanished. No distress calls, no wreckage, no survivors. It was as if they had flown into a hole in reality and disappeared forever. The Emperor sent another fleet, smaller this time, only 1 million ships. The same thing happened, gone. Then they noticed something strange. Their outer colonies had stopped responding. When they sent ships to investigate, those ships disappeared too. Panic spread through the empire. They who had never known fear suddenly knew nothing else. The Emperor called for a council of war. His greatest generals gathered to find a solution. They argued for hours. Some wanted to surrender, some wanted to flee, some wanted to fight to the death. In the middle of their argument, every light in the palace went out. When the lights came back on, there was a human sitting at the end of the table. It was the diplomat they had imprisoned months ago. She looked exactly the same, calm, patient, waiting. "How did you get here?" the Emperor demanded. "That is not important," replied. "What is important is that you listen to me very carefully." The generals reached for their weapons. Before they could touch them, the weapons crumbled to dust in their hands. Continued as if nothing had happened. "Your Majesty, you attacked our people. You killed millions of our citizens. You laughed at our offer of peace." She stood slowly. "Now we will give you one final chance. Surrender unconditionally. Release all prisoners. Pay for the damage you have caused. Do this and your species will survive." The Emperor's fear turned to anger. "You dare to threaten the Empire? We have ruled this galaxy for 50,000 years. "You have ruled because we allowed it," said quietly. "That time is over." The Emperor screamed at his guards to attack. The guards rushed forward. And then they stopped. Every in the room froze. They could not move. They could not speak. They could only watch as walked slowly toward the Emperor. "You have chosen," she said. "Remember that. When the darkness comes, remember that you chose this." She walked out of the palace. They remained frozen for exactly 1 hour. When they could move again, they ran to their ships and tried to flee. None of them made it. Turned off the recording. He did not need to see what happened next. He remembered it too well. Within 1 year, the Empire was gone. Their worlds were empty. Their people had vanished. Every record of their existence was being slowly erased from history. Only a few beings remembered they had ever existed. The humans returned to the galactic community as if nothing had happened. They smiled, they traded, they made friends. No one talked about no one dared. Had spent centuries trying to understand what the humans had done. He had never found an answer. Their technology seemed normal. Their military seemed weak. There was nothing that could explain how they had destroyed an empire of 10 trillion beings in less than a year. The only conclusion could reach was terrifying. The humans were hiding something. Something so powerful, so dangerous, that even showing it to the galaxy might cause panic. Now, 50,000 years later, another species had made the same mistake. They had threatened humanity. The humans had gone silent. Knew what was coming. He could feel it in his ancient bones. He sent one final message to High Commander. It was simple: stop now, while you still can. Never responded. Far away at the edge of human space, the fleet gathered for invasion. 200,000 ships ready for war. They did not know that they were already being watched. They did not know that their fate had already been decided. And they did not know that in the darkness between the stars, something old and patient was beginning to wake up. The galaxy held its breath and waited for the storm to begin. The first ship disappeared on a Tuesday. It was a scout vessel called the Iron Claw. It had been sent ahead of the main fleet to check the human border. The ship had a crew of 50 soldiers and the best sensors that had ever built. At exactly noon, the Iron Claw sent its regular report. Everything was normal. Human space was dark and quiet. No defenses, no patrols, easy target. At 12 minutes past noon, the Iron Claw stopped transmitting. High Commander received the news while eating his morning meal. His advisor stood nervously nearby. "What do you mean, stop transmitting?" demanded. "We lost contact completely, sir. No distress signal, no final message. The ship is simply gone." "Put down his food. Equipment failure, send another scout." They sent another scout. The same thing happened, and another, and another. By the end of the week, 27 ships had vanished at the human border. Not destroyed, not captured, just gone, as if they had never existed. Fear began to spread through the fleet. Soldiers whispered to each other late at night. What was happening? What could make entire ships disappear without a trace? Tried to control the situation. He gave speeches about strength and human weakness. He punished anyone who spoke of fear. He ordered the fleet to prepare for immediate invasion. But even could not ignore what happened next. On the 8th day, the disappearances moved closer. A supply ship vanished while still in formation with the main fleet. One moment it was there, traveling alongside 1,000 other vessels. The next moment it was gone. The ships on either side reported nothing unusual. They had not seen anything. They had not heard anything. The supply ship had simply stopped existing. Panic spread faster than fire. Soldiers refused to sleep. Captains demanded to know what was happening. Some crews tried to flee, but had their ships destroyed as an example to others. Came to with a tablet full of reports. His hands were shaking. "Sir, we have analyzed all the disappearances. There is no pattern we can understand. Large ships, small ships, armed ships, unarmed ships. It does not matter. They all vanish the same way." "Then we are dealing with a weapon," said firmly. "Every weapon can be defeated." "Sir, with respect, this is not like any weapon we have ever seen. Our scientists cannot explain it. Our priests cannot explain it. Nothing in our history explains it." Slammed his fist on the table. "Then we will create new history. We will be the species that defeated humanity. Our names will be remembered forever." Looked at his commander with sad eyes. "Sir, I fear our names will be forgotten like all the others." That night, something worse happened. The disappearances stopped targeting military ships. Instead, they reached the... At first, it was small things. A building in the capital city simply vanished, leaving a perfect rectangular hole in the ground. Then a bridge disappeared while people were crossing it. Then an entire neighborhood went dark and was never seen again. The emperor of the father called an emergency meeting. The greatest minds in the empire gathered to find an answer. They had nothing. "We must surrender," one advisor said. "This is not a war we can fight." "Surrender to whom?" another asked. "The humans will not speak to us. Every message we send goes unanswered." "Then we must flee, abandon our worlds, find somewhere the humans cannot reach us." The emperor shook his head slowly. He was old and tired, and he had never looked more afraid. "Where would we go? The humans know every corner of this galaxy. If they want to find us, they will find us." Reports kept coming in. More disappearances. More panic. Citizens were fleeing the capital city in massive numbers. Some were heading to the countryside. Some were trying to leave the planet entirely. But even leaving did not help. Ships full of refugees vanished in deep space. Colonies on distant worlds reported strange events and then went silent. The Empire was being erased from the universe, one piece at a time. High Commander stood on the bridge of his flagship and watched his fleet fall apart. Ships were deserting. Crews were mutinying. Soldiers were killing themselves rather than face the unknown enemy. Approached him carefully. "Sir, we have received a message." "From the humans." "No, sir, from Counselor." Took the tablet and read the message. It was short. "High Commander, go to the council chamber. Go alone, go now. This is your last chance." Laughed, but it was a hollow sound. "The old fool thinks I will beg for his help." "Sir, perhaps we should listen. He knows things about humanity that we do not." "I know enough. The humans are cowards who use tricks and shadows. When I find their weapon, I will destroy it. Then I will destroy them." But even as he spoke, another ship disappeared from his fleet, then another, then 5 more. Watched his empire crumble and felt something he had never felt before, true fear. The Emperor made a decision. He recorded a message and sent it to every corner of the galaxy. "People of the and people of all species who can hear this. I, Emperor of the, surrender unconditionally to humanity. We withdraw our demands. We beg for peace. We will accept any terms. Please just let us survive." The message played on every channel. Every species heard it. The proud empire, the terror of 100 worlds, was begging for mercy. There was no response from humanity. The disappearances continued. 3 days later, the Emperor's palace vanished. Everyone inside was gone, including the Emperor himself. His last words were captured by a recording device. "Why will you not answer us? What do you want?" Silence was the only reply. On the Galactic Council station, Counselor watched the fall of the with ancient sorrow. He had seen this before. He knew how it ended. A young delegate approached him. "Counselor, what is happening? How are the humans doing this?" Shook his head. "I have studied humanity for 300,000 years. I still do not know. But they seem so normal, so ordinary. How can they have this kind of power?" Looked at the young delegate with tired eyes. "Have you ever wondered why humans smile so much? Why they are always friendly, always helpful, always kind?" "I assumed it was their nature." "Perhaps, or perhaps they smile because they know something we do not. Perhaps they are kind because they can afford to be. When you can destroy entire empires without effort, kindness costs nothing." Turned away. "I think the most terrifying thing about humanity is not their power. It is the fact that they have chosen to be gentle, and we made them choose otherwise." In the darkness of space, the fleet was down to a few thousand ships. Most had deserted. Many had been taken. The rest waited for the end. High Commander sat alone in his quarters. His armor was removed. His weapons were set aside. For the first time in his life, he looked like what he was, a frightened creature facing something beyond his understanding. He thought about his father, the Emperor. He thought about his people, vanishing one by one. He thought about all his pride and all his demands and all his certainty. He had been so sure that strength was everything. Now he knew that there were powers in the universe that made strength meaningless. Outside his window, the stars continued to shine, but they looked different now. They looked cold, uncaring, waiting. And somewhere in the silence, humanity was making its final decision. 23 days after Ambassador walked out of the council chamber, she walked back in. The great hall was nearly empty. Most delegations had fled. Those who remained were the oldest species, the ones who remembered the old stories and knew that running would not save them. They sat in silence and watched as the small human woman approached the central platform. Counselor was there, of course. He had never left. His ancient eyes followed every step. High Commander was also there. He had come alone as the message from had instructed. His armor was gone. His weapons were gone. Even his pride was gone. He looked like a broken creature, hollow and defeated. Stopped at the center of the chamber. She looked around at the empty seats, at the frightened faces, at the silence that filled the room. Then she placed a single tablet on the table in front of her. "I have brought new terms," she said. Her voice was calm, as if nothing unusual had happened, as if millions had not vanished, as if an empire had not crumbled. Stepped forward. His voice was rough from crying, from screaming, from begging into the void. "What have you done to my people? Where are they?" Looked at him without emotion. "They are safe for now." "Safe? Half my species has disappeared. My father, my emperor, is gone." "Yes." His hands trembled. "Give them back, please. I will do anything." Picked up the tablet and held it out to him. "Read this. Sign it. Your people will return." Grabbed the tablet with shaking hands. He stared at the screen, but his eyes were too full of tears to read. "What does it say?" "New terms for peace," replied. "The Empire will surrender all military vessels. You will pay for the colonies you destroyed in full over the next 1,000 years. You will never threaten another species again, and you will remember this lesson forever." Wiped his eyes and tried to focus on the words. The terms were harsh but not impossible. He had expected much worse. He had expected extinction. "If I sign this, my people will come back, all of them. All who are still alive." Flinched, some are dead. Some resisted, some tried to fight, some refused to accept what was happening. His voice remained steady. "Humanity does not seek destruction, High Commander. We seek understanding, but those who cannot understand must face consequences." His hand hovered over the signature line. Why show mercy? We would not have shown you any." "I know." Looked at him, and for just a moment something soft appeared in her eyes, something almost like pity. "That is the difference between us." Signed the document without reading another word. He did not care about the details. He only wanted his people back. He only wanted the nightmare to end. The moment his signature appeared on the screen, the lights in the chamber flickered. When they steadied, there was another human standing beside, a young man with a gentle face and quiet eyes. "It is done," the young man said. "The return has begun." Across the galaxy, impossible things started happening. Ships that had vanished reappeared exactly where they had been taken. Buildings materialized out of thin air, filled with confused but unharmed citizens. The Emperor opened his eyes in his palace bedroom, convinced he had just woken from a terrible dream. They were coming home. Counselor watched all of this with wonder and fear. 300,000 years of life, and he still could not understand humanity. He approached carefully. "Ambassador, may I ask a question?" Nodded politely. "Of course, Counselor." How did you do all of this? Your technology is not much more advanced than other species. Your military is not special. What power do you have that allows you to move entire populations, to erase empires, to bend reality itself?" Smiled. It was a gentle smile, the kind a teacher might give a curious student. "Counselor, do you really want to know?" Hesitated. He thought about the gone forever. He thought about the erased from history. He thought about all the species who had challenged humanity and paid the price. "No," he finally said, "I do not think I want to know." "That is wise," gathered her things and turned to leave. "Humanity values peace, Counselor. We truly do. We have no desire to rule the galaxy or destroy our neighbors. We simply want to live in safety." "Then why have such terrible power?" Paused at the door. "Because the universe is not always peaceful, because some species only understand strength, because kindness without power is weakness, and weakness invites aggression." She looked back at him one last time. "We learned long ago that the only way to protect peace is to make war unthinkable, so we did." She walked out of the chamber. The young man followed her. Watched them go, then turned to look at. The High Commander had fallen to his knees, crying with relief. His people were safe. His species would survive. The nightmare was over. But knew that nothing would ever be the same. Over the following years, the galaxy changed. They kept their promise. They disarmed completely. They paid their debts. They never threatened anyone again. Their children grew up hearing stories about the silence, about the disappearances, about the day humanity showed them the true meaning of power. Other aggressive species heard the stories too. Wars became rare. Conquests became unthinkable. Every species knew that if they pushed too far, if they threatened too much, humanity might decide to teach them the same lesson. The humans, for their part, returned to normal life. They traded. They explored. They made friends with other species. They laughed and loved and lived just like they always had. But sometimes, late at night, other species would look at their human friends and wonder. They would see the kindness in human eyes and remember that kindness was a choice. They would hear human laughter and know that silence was always waiting underneath. Ambassador retired 5 years after the incident. She moved to a small house by the ocean on Earth and spent her days watching the waves. Visitors came sometimes, diplomats and leaders who wanted her wisdom. She always welcomed them with tea and gentle conversation. One visitor asked her the question that everyone wanted to know: "Do you feel guilty for what happened to the?" Thought for a long moment before answering. "I feel many things: sadness that it was necessary, relief that it worked, hope that it will never be needed again." She sipped her tea. "But guilt? No, they made their choice. They chose to threaten innocent people. They chose to ignore every warning. They chose to believe that strength was the only thing that mattered." "And what do you believe matters?" Smiled at the distant ocean. Compassion, understanding, the willingness to walk away from a fight you could easily win. She set down her tea. Humanity learned long ago that true strength is not about destroying your enemies. It is about making sure you never have to. The visitor left with more questions than answers. That was usually how conversations with ended. Outside, the sun was setting over the water. The sky turned orange and pink and purple. Stars began to appear, one by one, spreading across the heavens like diamonds on black silk. The stars had witnessed everything: the rise and fall of empires, the birth and death of species, the endless dance of power and weakness. Now they witnessed something new, a galaxy at peace, held together by the quiet promise of humanity. Not a threat, not a warning, just a simple truth that everyone understood. The humans were kind, the humans were gentle, the humans were friends. But if you ever made them walk away from the table, the stars themselves would tremble. And in the silence that followed, you would learn why humanity's kindness was the most terrifying thing in the universe. Because it was always a choice.